Good morning, Bucknutters, and welcome into the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Friday, October 2nd, 2015. I am Dave Biddle, and I am joined by the one and only Duane Long.
Well, not a lot of big news this week as far as the Ohio State Buckeyes are concerned. The number one team in the country, the defending national champs, just like getting that out there. Probably most notable is the fact that Marshon Lattimore has now emerged as the number one nickel back. You know, this is very good news if he can stay healthy. We're talking about a kid who was ranked as the number 6 corner, number 52 overall player in the 2014 class, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, a very high 4-star recruit. He's battled hamstring issues. But man, if he can stay healthy, Duane, that's a pretty good nickel back.
Well, what I look at, you know, you've got the decision between safety and cornerback in that nickel back spot. Well, I tend to lean toward safeties because, you know, you're taking a really big guy off the field and a linebacker to go to that nickel. I'd like a guy that can be a little more physical. He can step up into the box and maybe take on a blocker and win. You know, he's got a better chance of doing something if they decide to run the ball. But you got a lot of receivers on the field, so you'd like to have that cornerback out there. Well, you've got both when you've got Lattimore out there. He is a big kid. I mean, I actually liked him better as a receiver, and he's big enough to be a split end. He's 6'1" or so, and 195 pounds, maybe even heavier than that at this point. So you got the combination guy. You got a guy out there that's a cornerback. He's earned his stripes as a cornerback, but he's a bigger kid. He's not going to be giving up the weight and size that most cornerbacks would be, you know, jumping into that slot. That's usually where we're going to see the nickel. He's usually going to play over that receiver, so he's closer to the line of scrimmage. He's one that's going to be called on to deal with the run if it comes, so you got a bigger guy. I also want to point out, considering how much time he's missed, that he can move into that spot that quickly, it shows what kind of special athlete he is. I think I love the idea. You know, you almost got a combo corner safety there with Lattimore. At least you got a cornerback that can cover, and he's got size. So I think this is a good thing. I can see where they wanted this to happen.
We've seen Cam Burrows through 4 games now. We've seen him as, you know, the number one nickelback since Damon Webb has been suspended. And real quick, what we're hearing on Damon Webb, I think it's trending in Damon Webb's favor. There's not much I can say, but I think there's a chance he could be back maybe even sooner rather than later. And, you know, again, it's a fluid situation, but we'll see if Damon Webb can get back sooner rather than later. But that's what I'm hearing, so we'll see what happens there. But, Duane, what does this say about Cam Burrows? You know, he's an older guy. He's a junior. He played corner as a freshman. I think we all knew he was going to be a safety. He moved to safety last year. Actually started the opener last year over Von Bell. It took Von Bell all of 1 game to win that job, you know, over Cam Burrows. But the point of the matter is, with Marshon Lattimore being the number 1 nickel, we've seen Cam Burrows through 4 games this season. What have you seen out of Cam Burrows? What does this say about that young man?
Well, you know, that's the puzzling thing. I thought he had a really good game last weekend. I was a little surprised that this move happened based on what Cam Burrows did last weekend. He played good football, probably the best game I've ever seen out of the kid. So that's a little bit of a surprise. I think it's just a matter of they wanted a better guy on the field, and when you look at it, he was a cornerback, he was a safety, he's moved back to cornerback. He may just not be the best of the guys, you know, the best defensive back. He's not the 5th best defensive back we have, and now that Lattimore is healthy, they're going with their best guy. So, you know, no offense to Cam Burrows, he's playing well, but probably looking at a better guy here. It's that simple.
Switching gears to the offensive side of the ball, you know, a lot of questions about Ezekiel Elliott. In your opinion, Duane, is Zeke about ready to break out and become that, you know, Heisman Trophy candidate that many expected, or is something different about Ezekiel this year? What's your take?
I'm seeing fans talk about that, and I'm just not getting the questions about whether Zeke's not the same guy. To me, I think it's just a matter of I'd like to get him north as much as possible. Instead of trying to, you know, he's got the speed. We've always believed in his speed, but he was always at his best getting upfield as quickly as possible and then kicking it outside, kicking it wide if necessary. I would like to get him up in between the tackles, Let him. He's got good vision. He's a strong kid. You're not just going to drag him down. Get him up in there inside and let him make his moves from in there. I think that would help. Just get him going forward as quickly as possible. Some guys they're just better off like that. I think he's one of them. I would rather see more plays just straight at the defense and let him read it and break a tackle and then burst into the open. I mean, the big touchdown run that blew up in the Alabama game, it was an inside run. He got a block from Spencer and kicked it out and then he was gone. But that play started inside. So I would like to see more runs between the tackles for him.
I couldn't agree more. I think, first of all, I'd like to see more runs between the tackles, as you said. I'm not worried in the least about Zeke. I'm seeing, and Urban Meyer's pointed this out time and time again, I'm not seeing the same type of blocking from the receivers. You lose a guy like Evan Spencer. A guy like Braxton Miller still learning how to play the position, let alone try and block. And it's not just Braxton. It's a lot of other wide receivers. It's just they're not on that level yet. The offensive line's just now starting to gel, even though they're a veteran group. Ed Warner talked about that yesterday as he filled in on that last segment in the Urban Meyer Collins show, that the offensive line, even though they're veteran, they're just now starting to gel. He feels good about how they're playing now for that Western Michigan game. But first 3 games, they were really on the same page. So I'm still very bullish on Zeke. I think when the dust settles, he will be in New York as a Heisman Trophy finalist. I don't know if he'll win it. There's some great players across the country, Leonard Fournette, many others, Nick Chubb. But I think Ezekiel Elliott is the best running back in the country, and I think he will be in New York as a Heisman finalist. And I, of course, hope he wins it. Real quick, Duane, before we let you go, give me some Ohio State-Indiana predictions. This is amazingly a big game, probably the biggest game that Indiana's played in several decades. Buckeyes favored by 21 points. Kickoff tomorrow is just past 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, game televised on ABC or in parts of the country on ESPN2. Unfortunately, the broadcasting crew of Mike Patrick and Ed Cunningham, Mike Patrick's a nice guy, but not very good. Ed Cunningham's just terrible. Ed Cunningham is one of the worst color analysts I have ever heard, so sorry to hear that for Buckeye fans. But, Duane, Buckeyes favored by 21, a couple undefeated teams. How's this game going to go? What's your final score prediction?
Well, first I have to agree with you. I tend to watch games with music on and sound down. Now you've just confirmed that this game I will definitely be watching with the sound down and the music on. Okay, let's just go back and try to put this in perspective. The team has not played like we wanted to, but Ohio State's played badly against Northern Illinois and still won a football game. And the other 3 football games won pretty handily, not as much as we wanted it to, but they won handily. I'm looking at Indiana, and everyone's all worried. 4-0. Yeah, Southern Illinois, Florida International, Western Kentucky, and Wake Forest. They allowed 47 points to Southern Illinois. They allowed 35 to Western Kentucky. This is not a great football team. They might be 4-0, but the only reason they don't have a loss is because they haven't played Western Michigan. This is not a good team. The 21 points, we should cover that. I'm not a whole lot worried about this, especially the way the defense is playing. As we're looking at the scores that Indiana has run up, when you score 48 points and get a 1-point win, you don't have much defense. You're having to outscore teams. And right now, let's not forget, this team is allowing 12 points a game. That's all they're allowing. So let's not get too worked up about what Indiana is going to be able to do. I know we're concerned because of the running game last week. That's not going to do it. They can't just run the ball against us. It's not going to happen. We're not going to. They can't. They've got to score points. They're not going to do that. So that takes them out of their running game. I think 21 points is a conservative number. I think we roll these guys. We should. I like the performance we're coming off of. I think it was a much improved football team. Things looked more fluid. I think we were on the same page a little bit more this week. So I'm not worried about this that much. I really think we're going to shut this team down and start. I think we're going to find our track this weekend. Let's just say it that way. I like what I'm seeing. I think 21 points is low. Everyone take the points or give the points up.
What's your final score again?
I think we're going to 44-10, let's say.
I like it. I hope it works out that way. It's an interesting game from my perspective, Duane. I, of course, think Ohio State will win. I'll give my final score in a moment. I really like this Indiana offense. Kevin Wilson, very good offensive coach. I've always said he's a good offensive coordinator, not a good head coach, and I still maintain that. But Indiana's obviously, for their standards, having a good season. We'll see if it can continue. Senior quarterback in Nate Sudfeld, big guy, gets the ball out quick, strong arm, pretty accurate. Excellent running back in Jordan Howard, a veteran offensive line. They've had a couple of young receivers step up. They have a big receiver and a kind of a more of a smaller receiver. So a lot of good weapons on offense, and again, a veteran offensive line. So I really like their offense. I love Ohio State's defense. When you look at Indiana's defense, they have not played well, and they're without their best player in this game, Darius Latham, junior defensive tackle, who was on Ohio State's radar with Urban Meyer recruiting. Big-time four-star recruit, a huge recruit for Indiana standards, is out of this game due to suspension. So I like Ohio State to cover, but just barely. I have Ohio State winning 42-20. I could see this going a couple different ways. I could see Indiana surprising people if Ohio State's turnover prone and hanging in there. I could see Ohio State blowing them out, but I'm going to go somewhere in the middle. I'm going to go with 42-20. But if you've been following my picks, you should take my picks. Take the opposite and bet heavy. Bet heavy against whatever I'm picking because I've been horrible this year. But I'm taking Ohio State 42-20. I have the Buckeyes barely covering. Thank you very much to Duane Long, his insights are appreciated, and you can tell why he is a national superstar amongst the ladies and even the guys out there. Good stuff out of Duane Long, and thanks to the listeners. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you have a great weekend. Play that Buckeye swag, best damn band in the land. Bye.